And I think Little Green, I think it's the third song on the album.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the best examples. That's a song about a baby that Joni Mitchell was forced to put up for adoption 6 years before Blue was released. And she basically became pregnant while she was at art college in Calgary. Her ex-boyfriend ran off, leaving her destitute, penniless, and unable to care for this child. Out of shame, like obviously this is 60s Canada, she could never tell her family. She felt that the social stigma of becoming pregnant out of wedlock in the 60s was equivalent to murdering someone. And yeah, she wrote this song in 67, performed it throughout the last stages of the decade, and then released it on Blue in 1971. And I think it's weird because I wonder what the reaction must have been like at the time, because apparently it wasn't really picked up on as something that had the potential to be autobiographical from what I've read. And it was only in, I think it was 93, when an ex-roommate of hers sold the story to a tabloid newspaper. Can you just imagine that for a second? Like, you've had to go through that horrendous ordeal decades and decades ago, and then you find out somebody you used to share a room with has sold the story to a tabloid for money. I just think it's absolutely horrendous. But I mean, one good thing that came out of it was 4 years later, Joni and her daughter were able to finally meet for the first time. But yeah, absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, I mean, that story is absolutely heartbreaking, and I think it speaks to like really kind of Dickensian circumstances of her being destitute and, you know, had no money, unable to raise this child, so she was forced to give up for adoption. And your point about how not really realising, I'm not sure I realised until at least 4 or 5 years after I first heard this album what that song was about. Because as you say, half this album's about, you know, her personal relationships with, romantic relationships with men, or her travelling around Europe. And then you have this song, Little Green. And to me at first, like, this is a really beautiful little folk song. I wonder what it's about. You know, maybe it's about motherhood in the general conceptual sense. And when I found out this story, and then when you examine the lyrics, it takes on a whole new level of just harrowing.
It's crushing, absolutely
pain.
Crushing.
To focus on some of the lyrics specifically, there's a line which she talks about being child with a child, pretending, ray of lies you are sending home. So you sign all the papers in the family name. You're sad and you're sorry, but you're not ashamed. Little Green, have a happy ending. I mean, to me, that is just some of the most heartfelt and beautiful and subtle and restrained lyric writing I think I've ever heard. And I know I want.